All right, hey, Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Of course we do. And this week, we did not have to spin the wheel purple punishments. We're recording a little bit different, a little bit different time frame, so we kind of missed out on the purple punishments, but don't worry, that'll be back next week when Evan hopefully has to wax a limb. I don't know.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. We also tried a really good beer from Reunion Brewery. It was definitely interesting and maybe not something that we would normally gravitate towards typically, but very delicious nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm really glad we tried that one. Thanks for bringing it. But other than that, we gave out some season superlative awards to celebrate this historic 2024 Minnesota Vikings regular season. Season's not done yet. We still got the playoffs, but the regular season, it was fun to look back and give some awards to. So
yeah, so wherever you are, go grab a cold one of your choice and join us.
Skol.
Skol.
We just want to shout out our show sponsor, Big Top Ventures. Thank you, Big Top Ventures, for sponsoring everything. If you are interested in taking an all-inclusive trip to Mexico or Jamaica, go ahead and send an email to Big Top Ventures, and they will hook you up with the best pricing available for those resorts in Mexico or Jamaica. You can do that. We always put it down here right in front of us if you're watching. That email address is bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Again, bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Let them know you're interested, and they will get you the best pricing available. So thanks again, Big Top Ventures. I'll be going again in May.
Man,
I'm super excited.
Lucky duck.
Yeah.
Can you bring me along too?
I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can make that happen.
All right.
If I get a big enough suitcase, we can probably make it work. Or you can just email Big Top Ventures.
I can get
a really good price. But yeah,
cool.
It'll be exciting.
Good stuff. Well,
yeah.
Thanks, Big Top, for all of your sponsorship work for us. We appreciate it. Good news for us tonight. We do not have to spin the wheel of purple punishments.
No, actually, I'm going to throw in a challenge flag on that. I think you have to wax a limb right now.
I'm going to veto that right now. Say no thanks. I'm glad that you did it. How's the leg hair coming by the way?
Feeling the spots. Yes, both spots that I waxed, they're still really smooth, and it's been so we're recording a day earlier than normal. We're recording on Sunday,
so it's been 6 days.
Yeah, so 6 days exactly. And I don't what's the brand we used again? They're pretty good, I guess. I mean,
Nair, Nair, N-A-I-R.
Not a sponsor
yet.
But yeah, I mean, if I ever had to wax something else, judging by the whole experience.
We're gonna do your beard next time.
No, that would be torture.
That would hurt bad.
I am feeling like I need to get rid of it. I need to shave it. I think it was about this time last year I shaved it down to the skin. So maybe sometime. But all right, let's wax a limb there, Ev.
No, we're not going to do that. And we are kind of letting ourselves off the hook. We are recording a day early. Mm-hmm. Vikings actually play tomorrow. So by the time you're listening to this, you'll probably know the result of the Vikings game like we will. But we're going to wait to spin until next week. We both made picks in episode 74 last week. Mm-hmm. We both picked the Vikings to win. Hopefully they do. If the Vikings do get out of that game with a win, then we won't have to spin. But if they lose, we will spin the wheel.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah, and the way things are looking right now, our next episode, which we're not too sure on the details of how we're going to do all this, but our next episode that we release after this one, which is episode 75, will be at the Manstream's podcast event on tap, which will be live. So we're still going to record it and release it on all of our regular feeds, but if you're interested and available, we will be live in Bellevue, Iowa on January 18th in a big event put on by the Mainstream Podcast. If you haven't heard of them, go check them out. They're pretty cool. But yeah, us, the Mainstream, and 4 or 5 other podcasts will be having live sessions. But yeah, that's going to be really exciting, and who knows, maybe we'll have to do a live Purple Punishments. I don't know. I'm just speaking that out there right now. Maybe Evan will have to wax a limb live.
No,
maybe not.
I'm gonna throw those away before we leave.
Well, I'm gonna take them because I mean, if you're just gonna throw them away, they work really well. So I don't know what I'll need to wax next, but at least I'll be prepared.
There you go. Okay. All right, let's get into this beer. I don't want to talk about waxing stuff anymore. I brought the beer today.
You did, and I'm really excited.
It's from Reunion. It's been a hot minute since we've had a beer from Reunion Brewery out of Iowa City. I saw this one, the can art alone just kind of popped off the shelf at me, and then I read the description. It's called Blender, and it's a smoothie sour with mango, peach, and guava.
Interesting.
I've never had a smoothie sour before, but I've heard that they're super good, so I'm excited to try this.
I think I've had one at least once with friend of the show, Forrest.
Okay.
If there's ever like an obscure beer type, I've tried it. It's probably been with friend of the show, Forrest. But I'm really excited about this one. This is definitely not one that I would immediately think to grab off the shelf, but it's here, and I'm pretty pumped. So, yeah, we should just crack into these guys.
It's juicy smelling, I can tell you that already. And it's thick. Thicker than a normal beer. Is. Which is characteristic of a smoothie sour, I think, from what I've heard. It's pretty hazy in color.
Sorry, I'm just taking in the whole experience.
Very, very fruity. You can smell the peach and the guava.
Is it going to be tart?
I don't know.
Are we going to...
We'll find out.
Yeah, that vinegary tartness that we've talked about before. All right, let's just dive in. Skol.
Definitely has that tartness to it.
But it mellows out really quick.
Oh, yeah. It's not a lot.
It's immediately really tart, but then, like, really nice. I mean, this is not one, like I said, that I would immediately grab off the shelf. But I wonder if it's the mango. The mango kind of keeps it from being super tart and super crazy sweet. Like, I'm liking this.
I like it, too. Yeah, it's really good.
The can's really fun. It's got like this maniacal, crazy looking blender with a face on it, and there's just color everywhere. And the name of the beer kind of looks like it's in Nickelodeon slime, and it's a fun can. Somebody had a lot of fun making that can art, but yeah, this beer is actually really good. Yeah, I did not expect to like it this much.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. So thanks to Reunion for Blender. It's a really good
blender.
Don't finish that.
Sorry.
Don't finish that.
Sorry, I'm on a roll right now.
It's a good smoothie sour.
Yeah. I'm excited for the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna pour another one.
Yep.
While we're here and thinking about it,
I will do that here in a minute. But man, I'm still trying to figure out ways to make sure that you wax a limb. I don't know. We just need to, maybe I'll just secretly bring the strips to the live event, and we'll goat the whole crowd into just chanting wax a limb until it's finally like, all right, I'll do it. Yeah. All right. So if you're there,
you know what you should do? You should make a Facebook group. Evan Duth should wax a limb in 2025.
I've tried that before, and I don't think it worked.
Yeah, you made one when we were in high school because you wanted me to play football.
Yeah, and you didn't play football, and then I quit football. So
yeah,
it actually kind of maybe if I try to get you to wax a limb, it will unwax the limb that I already waxed. I don't know.
Why are we still talking about that?
I just want to speak it into existence.
Let's talk about what we have planned to talk about tonight, and that is a list of 10 superlatives that we're going to hand out, 10 awards, so to speak. Just kind of recapping the Vikings regular season. It was a pretty memorable one that most of us, including us, didn't expect to go this well. I was certainly not expecting them to be a playoff team. And here we are, 14 wins, and could win a playoff game or two.
Yeah, so I was trying to think just right now, otherwise I would have actually looked it up. But obviously we have the 98 season where they won 15 games. But is there any other season in Vikings history where they won 14 games?
I don't think so, but we could go look pretty quickly. Pro Football Reference.
Yeah, this is a historic, already right now, it's a historic Viking season. And I mean, hopefully things go our way here. Oh, no.
Ooh, good save.
Nailed it. Then, of course, my beer almost overflowed. As I was picking it up to drink it, I just remembered that I was holding it over our recording equipment here. And luckily, I don't think I dropped anything.
It's all good. To answer your question, though, this was the second most wins by a Vikings team in franchise history.
But, like, it's not tied second.
Nope.
It's like the second most wins.
98, 2024, and then they had 13 wins twice in 22 and 2017.
Oh, yeah, because what was the stat? The Vikings have won 13-plus games 4 times, and 2 of those seasons were KOC coached seasons, which is awesome.
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously, historic Viking season, but it's just the regular season. Now we're into the playoffs, and at this moment, it doesn't matter how many games you won. Nobody cares, because all it takes is one loss, and then the season's a failure. So let's embrace the fun regular season that it was. We'll give these awesome awards, and then we'll move on, and we'll look ahead to the Rams. And hopefully by the time you're hearing these words come out of my mouth, listeners, it will be happy time. The Vikings will have beat the Rams, and we'll be looking on to the divisional round. But can't do that yet. So
that's the hope. That's the goal. Let's start, though, with the best rookie. Who is the best draft pick that played? And we were looking at this before we started recording. Not too many of the rookies actually saw the field, the drafted rookies. So who in your mind gets the best rookie or the rookie of the year for the Vikings?
Yeah, so just to recap, I guess this doesn't take into account undrafted rookies. But as far as drafted rookies go, the Vikings had, seven rookies this year. J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner, Kyrie Jackson, Walter Rouse, Will Reichard, Michael Juergens, and Levi Drake Rodriguez. So on that list, not a whole lot of production from a lot of them. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy injured before the season started, missed the whole year. Rest in peace, Kyrie Jackson. He didn't ever have a chance to participate with the team in games at all, that's such an awful story. But yeah, rest in peace him. Will Reichard, obviously pretty solid, but a little shaky towards the end. And then the rest of the guys didn't really either ever see the field or rarely saw the field. Levi Drake Rodriguez, I think you said, was injured for a little bit, but also inactive most of the games. You wrote down a name, and I kind of thought about disagreeing with it. But I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think as far as actual production, the best Vikings rookie this year has to have been Dallas Turner.
Yeah, I think he gets the award for me. When he's been in, and now that I think he's comfortable with Brian Flores' system, and he's comfortable kind of flying around the way that B-Flow wants him to fly around, I think he wins. I think he's certainly the best rookie. You could have made a case for Will Reichard there for a while before he went on IR. He wasn't missing anything.
Yeah.
He made everything, and then he got hurt, and he kind of hasn't been the same since, and we're still not sure if he's still dealing with some injury or if he's just up in his head. But Dallas Turner finished the regular season with 20 total tackles. He appeared in 16 games, had 3 sacks. I mean, you really can't argue with those stats from a rookie edge rusher who was drafted really to be kind of the Danielle Hunter heir apparent.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Which is crazy because I mean, he flashed and he had good moments, but he also didn't have a ton of opportunities because there's 2 Pro Bowlers at his position ahead of him.
Yeah,
it's Grenard and Van Ginkel.
It's a very loaded defensive team this year. So
I'm just pulling up the list of all the guys that signed undrafted rookie contracts after the draft with the Vikings, just to make sure we weren't missing, like an obvious name. And really not really anybody made an impact. I think was Jalen Redmond considered a rookie?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because he flashed and he might have had better stats, overall than Dallas Turner, but not, night and day crazy better stats. Other than that, not a whole lot of guys on that undrafted list that made any splashes at all. So, yeah, I think Dallas Turner. The only other one I would have said, like you mentioned, was Will Reichard, who was really solid, but got injured, and then he's kind of been shaky ever since coming back from injury. So, hopefully that returns back to normal, first half of the season form for him. But yeah, that can be scary going in the playoffs.
Yeah, let's hope that he's got it figured out. All right, moving along here. We could probably sit on this one for a little bit because even though there's one name listed here, there were a lot of free agents brought in this year and a lot of really good free agents. So the next award that we're going to give out is for the best free agent, the best newcomer to the Vikings team that played somewhere else previously.
So just off the top of our heads, what were you going to say? We should put a pin in that?
Well, let's maybe do some honorable mentions before we can kind of build some suspense here before we get to our winner, because I think we agree. I think there's consensus there.
There's a few names that absolutely you'd be fine with giving this honor to, but we're just going to decide on one. But just to kind of rehash some of the bigger free agents the Vikings signed this year, obviously you have Sam Darnold. He's
huge.
He was pretty controversial when he first signed. I think or really the Skol Hops mentality on Sam Darnold when he signed wasn't like, oh, this team is awful. It was like, okay, they're signing a bridge guy, and then they're going to draft a rookie and go with the rookie, and
we were all pretty meh about Sam Darnold.
Didn't really make us too happy or too angry. It was like, okay, at least it's better than nothing. I think I'm trying to think who the other names would have been. I think initially there was the idea that Baker Mayfield could have been available before he got his nice contract with the Bucs. I don't know. Joe Flacco was kind of a nice thought for a minute, but yeah, I mean, all that to say, Sam Darnold, he was a pretty impactful free agent this year. Jonathan Grenard, huge, Pro Bowler. Andrew Van Ginkel, another guy in the defense that was huge. Stephon Gilmore, who was signed pretty late in the offseason. Shaq Griffin, my goodness.
Jerry Tillery, he's played a pretty good role plugging up the middle, contributing to that really good run defense. So, a lot of really good. Some other ones, too.
Aaron Jones, for sure. He's been pretty solid.
Jihad Ward, he flashed a little bit here and there. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
I think, and he didn't make a big enough splash to win this honor, but Kamu Grugier-Hill, he definitely stepped in and has stepped in anytime he's been asked and done a really good job. Yeah,
so a lot of big time names, a lot of really big contributors that were brought in, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah really kind of flexed his muscles, I think, in free agency and showed what he can do as a GM. I think I can't remember how many teams he's been a part of now.
Definitely the 49ers and the Browns right before he was with the Vikings. I don't know of any other teams before then.
But I think he's utilizing those relationships that he's made with other people across the league, and he's leveraging those in some big ways to get some players to Minnesota. So that's pretty awesome.
There is one name we haven't said yet, and he's our award winner.
Yeah. He's a Minnesota guy himself. Went to Minnesota.
Yep. Golden Gopher. Then he played for the Jets, and I think, I don't know, maybe definitely the Texans right before coming to the Vikings. Who is it?
Blake Cashman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been solid.
He's been huge, and he was injured for those 2 games, week 7 and week 8, playing the Lions and the Rams, both of which were losses for the Vikings, and the only losses that they sustained until they lost in week 18. So when he's on the field, he's a difference maker.
Yeah.
He's the green dot, isn't he, on defense? So he's the one getting coach communication in his helmet, and he leads the team in tackles. He's also got 4.5 sacks. He doesn't lead the team in sacks, but he's the guy. He's the captain of the defense, and he's been a super important acquisition.
Yeah, definitely the heart and soul, but probably more aptly the brain of the defense.
Yes.
Him doing his job makes it easier for the guys, the likes of Ivan Pace and, Jonathan Gennard and Van Ginkel, makes it that easy for them to just run around and hit people and make splashy plays because everything else is taken care of. I think you mix Blake Cashman with guys like Harrison Smith, and the thought process, the coaches on the field, so to say, they're taking care of everything, and then it's just play with your hair on fire.
Yep.
He did lead the team in tackles, but it's not like he had 20 sacks or 15 interceptions or anything like that. He just did his job, and the Vikings, it showed that he was on the team in a good way.
I just had a thought while we're doing these, and as you out there are listening, drop your award winners in the comments. Let us know who's your best rookie from this Vikings team this year, who's the best free agent, and as we get into some more of these categories, drop your nominees in the comments below.
Yep. I think, and you'll probably agree with me here, honorable mention for best free agent would be Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he's going to win another award here pretty soon.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely, for all these awards, there's a few guys that could win any of these awards. But yeah, I think it's when you really look down deep into the award, Blake Cashman, he's definitely deserving of this award.
Yes, for sure. All right, next we're going to get into the 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams, player of the year in those 3 phases. Let's maybe go in reverse order. Let's start with special teams.
Okay.
And then defense, and then we'll finish with offense.
Yeah.
Special teams has been kind of weird this year. It was great to start the season. You have arguably the league's best long snapper. He's just rock solid. Never really misses. He just always goes out, does his job super well. Ryan Wright, he's a pretty decent punter. He's
definitely had a bounce back year this year.
Yeah, he struggled a little bit last year. Seemed to be stronger this year. You don't like to use your punter a whole lot if you can help it.
Yep.
But it's nice to have a good one, and he's a good one for sure. And then, like we said already, Will Reichard, man, he started the season on fire, couldn't miss, and then he got hurt, and it's just been a little bit of a struggle since. He's still hitting kicks, but he's still missing some kicks too, which is frustrating. So who do you got?
Well, there's also another name that probably won't win any awards, but definitely stepped in and helped out the team in a tougher spot than a lot of people would have to step in and do. John Parker Romo, I think he just goes Parker Romo. So, I mean, don't forget about him. He definitely helped win a couple of games for the Vikings this year.
Yeah, the kind of the backup kicker, so to speak, the replacement kicker for Will Reichard while he was on IR. Yeah, he definitely, I think he missed one kick.
Yeah, maybe, but he was really solid.
Other than that, he was on it and made some pretty long kicks too, which is cool.
But yeah, we got to pick one guy.
Who are you going with?
I think as the Skol Hop, we got to go with one of the only first team All-Pros at his position, Andrew DePaula. I mean,
was he officially a first teamer?
Yeah, he and another guy whom we might mention on this list. The Vikings had 2 first team All-Pros and then a couple second teamers.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andrew DePaula, he's maybe one of the most decorated long snappers in the league at this point. I think he holds the record now for most Pro Bowls as a long snapper with 3. So it's not like a crazy, 20-year record. But yeah, he's been on fire the last handful of years. And I don't know where his career has been before. I know he's in his mid to late 30s at this point. So he's definitely been in the league for a while. But for the Vikings, you don't know how great it is to have a solid long snapper until you don't. And the Vikings haven't had to worry about that for a while.
Agreed. Yep. Defense. I feel like we could talk for a half an hour about all of the great players on defense, and we've already name dropped a ton of them. This defense is just stout this year. They are super strong. I'd put them up against any team. And even against one of the best teams in the league, the Lions, this last week, they held that Lions team in the first half pretty tough.
They held them till they didn't, but I think, like you alluded to last week, there was definitely a little bit of a relaxation towards the end when
there was a point in the probably late in the third quarter where they're like, "Yep, this game's over. We're gonna start looking ahead to the playoffs."
Yeah. But yeah, defensive player of the year. Who do you think it is, Ev?
We've already talked about him. He's probably the best free agent pickup, and there were a lot of really good ones. But I think he's the defensive player of the year as well. It's Blake Cashman. It has to be, for all the reasons we've already mentioned, and probably a bunch of other ones that we didn't mention. Just a super solid football player, and I think what's his contract right now?
I know he's definitely signed through next season, but maybe even the season after. I think if anyone involved with the decision making, Cashman, the Vikings, anybody, if they had their way, he'd re-up and be a Viking the rest of his career. Solid. I think this Vikings Defensive Player of the Year award, this is a little bit close. I mean, there's definitely other guys, like you said, there's a handful of guys that are definitely deserving of this award, and this is kind of a tough one to give because, I mean, Grenard, he was really good.
12 sacks, 11 and a half sacks,
really good.
Gink.
Byron Murphy Jr. led the team in interceptions. Definitely a lot of great names, and that we haven't even said Harrison Smith or Josh Metellus. Those guys. The whole defense really had some elite players, and it shows because it was one of the best defenses in Vikings history. Yeah,
for sure. We could probably award that to any of those guys that you listed, and they would have been very deserving.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But officially, Blake Cashman. He's gotten 2 awards so far from us.
We'll go with Blake. Yeah, that's how much we like the guy.
Well, it's kind of hard to give him, best free agent pickup without also saying, yeah, he's deserving of a few more of these awards.
Yep, for sure.
So keep your eyes out to see if he shows up on this list again. But I won't ruin any surprises here.
All right, Offensive Player of the Year, and I feel like this one could go to a few different people too.
Absolutely, but I mean, you can't have a good team without a good quarterback. And
very true.
Sam Darnold, well, there were other guys. I mean, Justin Jefferson, kind of a down year for him. He only was second in the league in receiving yards with only 1,500 plus receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. Still kind of a down year. But you can't do anything without the signal caller doing his job. And Sam Darnold, he had a couple downs, but he had a ton of ups this year. He's been better than anybody could have imagined he would be. He's going to get $30-40 million a year, if not more, in free agency here in just honestly a handful of weeks at the beginning of March when that starts. He's definitely, for me, hands down, the Offensive Player of the Year for the Vikings. And just like with defense, there's a handful of other guys that could have been the Offensive Player of the Year. It's just, you have to start with the quarterback.
Yeah, some honorable mentions. I think Justin Jefferson would be an honorable mention for Offensive Player of the Year. And yeah, he didn't produce maybe as much as he has, and it certainly isn't his best season. But it's close. I mean,
yeah, it might be his second best in yards and best or second best in touchdowns, but
it's his third best in yards.
Okay.
He had 1,822. He had 1,600 in 21. But he led the league in 22 with receptions and yards per game.
Nice.
So,
yeah, and I mean, there's Aaron Jones, who was pretty solid on offense. I'm surprised I haven't gotten a lot of flack for this. before the season started, I wasn't like hating on Aaron Jones, but I definitely didn't expect much from him. I figured we'd get, the old washed up version of a once good running back. I
expected to get the Packers sloppy seconds.
Yeah, kind of.
A little bit.
I think I said at one point, like, yeah, he'll probably have a game or two where he gets 100 yards, but like, I don't really expect much from that. I think he'll get injured and that'll be the end of this season. I'm so happy to be wrong about that. I'll own up to that terrible opinion from me because he proved me wrong. Aaron Jones was way better than I thought he would be. And I mean, a lot of other people knew he'd be pretty good. So I was in the minority thinking he wouldn't be that great. But yeah, enough that I wouldn't be mad if the Vikings signed him up for another year.
Yeah, and he's shown his age a little bit, and he's, left some games or gone to the locker room and come back. Even, was it the Lions game or the week before maybe where he was late coming out to the second half because he was getting an IV or something?
Yeah, that was the Lions, the last game of the season.
Yeah. So like his age is going to show more and more, and you've been notorious for saying you don't pay running backs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expect that they'll sign him to a huge contract, but I think the model that's working right now in the NFL too is having multiple backs.
Oh yeah.
The Lions have proven that. A lot of these playoff teams have proven that, unless you're the Eagles and you have Saquon Barkley who can just run all over Kingdom Come. But yeah, he's definitely an honorable mention as well offensively. I was kind of hoping for more out of TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I think this year is kind of just going to be almost a lost year for him, unless he like turns it on in the playoffs and it's one of those like, yeah, 24 for Hawkinson. It wasn't great in the regular season, but oh my goodness, the playoffs, that's when he turned it on.
That'd be awesome.
I think it was just tough. You got a new quarterback, new kind of system. Not it's the same offensive system, but coming back from that tough of an injury, he did come all the way back, and he did, I think he had a 100-yard game at one point towards the end. But yeah, I don't think he got it. He never got a touchdown this year. He never exploded. But that's okay. He'll be back next year better than ever. And we still have the playoffs. But yeah, I agree with you. I expected a little bit more. He also came back later than we all expected to. Yeah,
it did take him some time, and I think they were just being cautious, and they were playing so well. It's not like they were in a rush to get him back. It's like, well, we're playing pretty good football right now. We'll just keep you out until we're for sure that you're good, and then it'll just be, added firepower to the attack.
Exactly. All right, so to recap so far, we have best rookie, Dallas Turner, best free agent acquisition, Blake Cashman, special teams player of the year, Andrew DePaula, long snapper, defensive player of the year, again, Blake Cashman, and offensive player of the year, Sam Darnold. What's the next one? Next one we got.
So we're going to go back to kind of free agency here, and I want to know who you think is most likely to return in 2025. There are a ton of the list of free agents going into the 25 season is extremely long. I want us to determine who's most likely to return and who's most likely to leave in 25.
So I kind of just said this a few minutes ago, but Aaron Jones, I think the Vikings have proven that they're a better team when he's on the field and when he's playing well. And he's kind of proven that he's good no matter what. But I think it would just behoove everybody to re-up this, unless for some reason one of the parties, the Vikings or Aaron Jones, didn't want to come back next season. He is going to be 30, turning 31 late in the season next year, which is actually pretty old for running backs. I think even with all of that, he's probably still the most likely of the big name free agents to leave to be a returning player on the team. But I do think he might test out the market.
Yeah, and there are a whole bunch of guys I want to come back. I will probably get this wrong because I can't remember which of the defenders signed 1-year deals and which of them signed longer contracts. Cashman, I just looked a minute ago, 3-year contract.
Okay. So he's through what, 27? Well, 26, 27.
Yeah. But Grenard, did he sign a 1-year deal?
Yeah, he signed a big like $70 million. I think it was 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And I think Van Ginkel was 2 years.
Okay, so those 3 are coming back. I forget who I'm thinking.
Stephon Gilmore, I believe, was just the 1 year.
Gilmore, Griffin?
Shaq Griffin, I believe he might have just been a 1 year at that point in time. And then I'm pretty sure Cam Bynum, he's up. His contract's up, so he right. need to re-up.
And Byron Murphy, right?
Byron Murphy, yep. And then I don't know specifically how Harrison Smith's contract is looking, but it kind of feels like he's either going to retire or he'll be back. And unfortunately, I just get the feeling that this might be it for Harrison Smith. I would take him. Give me 20 more years of Harrison Smith. That's okay with me. Even if he didn't play, just like take up a roster spot and suit up every week and, walk out with your cane. Like, let's go. Just be on the team forever.
It looks like he's a free agent after this season, but he's got 3 void years on his contract where he'll still get money. And I think some of that was when he took the pay cut to keep him on the team 2 years ago.
Yeah. And even I think with him, it's a year to year.
Yeah.
Until the team says no.
Or until he says, I've had enough.
Yeah. Which I feel like this will be it for Harrison Smith. I hope it's not. He's like one of the last, like, I think he's the longest tenured Viking at this point.
Mm-hmm. He is.
We were in college when he was drafted, just still that tie to childhood a little bit. Like, all right, he's still there. And it's funny because he's probably like the same age we are, but he's like almost 2 years older than you or I am, but still I like the Vikings better when Harrison Smith is on the team.
Agreed. All right, so Aaron Jones, most likely to return. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that for sure. I'm going to say Cam Robinson is most likely to leave in 25.
He'll have a big market, or a solid market. There will definitely be a team that will be willing to pay him more than the Vikings will, just because the Vikings already have really good players at both offensive tackle positions. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to re-up with Cam Robinson, especially if he has options elsewhere and you'd have to compete and probably give a lot of money for what would essentially be a backup. The only caveat to that, Darrisaw's
return.
Yeah, we don't know exactly when he'll return. He got injured in a similar time frame that TJ Hawkinson got injured the previous year, and it took Hawkinson like 11 months to come back. And I think it was a pretty similar awful injury for both guys. So if that's the case, Darrisaw might be looking to miss, I don't know, half of next season, half of 25. So, I mean, if they know that, they might be a little bit more inclined to re-up with Cam Robinson. But even then, he's going to have a market. And I don't know. You have both parties have to want it. And I don't know anything about their relationship. I feel like Cam is perfectly happy being a Viking, but also like money. If he can get a good deal elsewhere, like go for it, man.
Yeah. No, I definitely think most people like playing for the Vikings. I don't know very many players unless you're Marcus Davenport.
Yeah. But that's true. I think what's the NFLPA's like best teams to play for, or whatever, the Vikings have been near the top. I think at the top one of the last couple of years, and very close to the top the other of the last few years. So facilities, coaching, I think unless there's some big secret hatred of being a Viking, I think people more often go out of their way to say, I love being a Viking and I like being in Minnesota. It seems like a good spot all the way around. But, I mean, if the Vikings are offering you $5 million and some other team offers you $7 million, $2 million is a lot of money.
Right.
Like, you gotta take the money as much as you can as an NFL player. And I wouldn't fault Cam Robinson at all if he took a better deal. I wouldn't fault the Vikings at all for not giving the best deal, but I would expect them to still come to the table and at least talk about a re-up. But I think, all of that to say, there's some other free agents coming up for the Vikings. I think the likes of Byron Murphy and Cam Cam Bynum are probably higher on the priority list to re-sign than Cam Robinson, just because of the way the depth chart looks as of right now. So, yep, he's probably going to get a better deal elsewhere.
Yeah, and like you said, it'll definitely be dependent on what happens with Darisaw.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if it is one of those, I like Cam Robinson. I think, he started off hot for the Vikings. And he's had a few mishaps since then, but nothing bad enough to lose a game for the Vikings. I think he's overall been a positive addition.
That left side of the line is definitely the weaker side of the line now than it was before Darisaw got hurt. And like you said, he was playing well. And I'm not saying that I want Cam Robinson to go. In fact, if Darisaw isn't healthy and can't start at the beginning of the 25 season, then let's keep this guy around if we can, because he's been a really good replacement in that position. So
maybe a season-saving move.
Yeah, definitely could have been, for sure. We'll never know, but we got a few more categories here.
Let's go.
Let's get through these. Best victory, best win for this Vikings team. There are a couple of really, really good ones.
I mean, there's 14 victories to talk about here. A lot of victories.
Which one was your favorite? Which one did you enjoy watching the most?
So when you wrote this list out, you kind of wrote two games that come to the top of mind, and I agree with them. Excuse me, I got a burp. So one of those games is the early season win against the Texans, and the other one is a little bit later in the season against the Falcons. Both of those great wins. The Texans, that was still in the time when, I think I had said, I feel like the Vikings are a year behind the model that the Texans are in. Young quarterback, young coach, a little bit of success early. Now it seems like the Vikings... they beat them in one game, but I'd say the Vikings are maybe a little bit better than the Texans. So that was a pretty solid win at the moment. Felt really good and gave the Vikings some validity early in the season. And then the Falcons game, that was huge because for a lot of the game it was pretty close. And then what was it? Late third quarter, early fourth quarter, the Vikings just turned it on and turned it into a blowout. And all the same, it was against the former franchise quarterback, who you shouldn't have bad blood against Kirk Cousins, but if you did, that probably felt pretty good to watch the Vikings beat him. Ultimately, I know which way I'm leaning. Do you know which way you're leaning on that game? The best victory?
We might be split on this one.
All right, that's fine.
And that's all right. You go first.
So I'm going to go the Falcons game.
Yeah.
It was one of the few times the Vikings just beat the crap out of another team. It felt good. It was fun. And then they just kept beating them. Another turnover. The fumble on the kickoff return. It's another touchdown. Yes, this game's awesome. The funniest play of the season was when Darnold was kind of running around in the pocket, running for his life, and you see out in the 50 yards away from him, Justin Jefferson's wide open, probably cooling off the first row of fans because he's waving so hard, and the defensive back
falls flat on his face.
And Justin Jefferson just catches the ball and kind of walks into the end zone. That was the funniest play of the season. That's not an official award we're giving, but that's mine that I'm giving right now. But yeah, that Falcons game for me, it felt the best. It was the most fun. And I couldn't even watch half of it. I was in a speeding car in Jamaica going from the airport to the resort at the time. So I couldn't even illegally find a stream because Jamaica, I guess you can't stream video. I don't know. So it was still really fun to watch the game cast on ESPN and follow along fumble, yes.
Yeah. I was on a hunting trip actually with some buddies, so I wasn't really watching. I was watching it as I could, but I was kind of in the middle of hunting. I'm gonna say the Texans win because for a few reasons actually. Number one, I felt like that was the moment where we all as fans of this team were kind of okay, this team is legit. We are not this 6-win, we're going to finish at the bottom of the division and we're just going to, all right, we'll look ahead to next year kind of thing. That was a beatdown, 34-7. And like you mentioned, It felt like maybe the Vikings were in a similar spot to the Texans coming into the season, and then JJ McCarthy got hurt, and that whole thing kind of seemed to like hit pause, like, okay, maybe next year, you know, right? And then they just came out and they poured it on against a playoff winning Texan team.
Yeah.
They won their playoff game this weekend and are moving on to the divisional round. So, and the other reason that I'm going to say that game is I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the Vikings have used the like media team at the with the team.
The Vikings Entertainment Network?
Yeah, they've used KOC's post-game speech from that game. I'm pretty sure it's this game where he told the guys, he said, remember this feeling because this is what this team is made of, and I know that we can go out and win some other games. And I think that was just kind of a defining moment for that team, kind of a turning point, obviously for us as fans, but I think for all the guys out there playing and the coaches on the sidelines, that I think that was when everybody kind of we put the league on notice.
Yeah.
Hey, look out for us.
Yeah, it was after the Texans game that people, you know, like us who talk about the Vikings every week, people started like changing up their predictions, their win totals for the Vikings. Because like before the season, it was like, yeah, this team, you know, I think Vegas had them 6.5, you know, over under 6.5 wins. And everybody's like, yeah, they might go 7-10 again, 6-11 or whatever. And then after that Texans game, it's like, oh, like you said,
could be a 10-win, 11-win, 12-win team.
Yeah, I don't if they haven't lost to the Niners and the Texans, which at the time, the Niners game, even without Christian McCaffrey, that was still a pretty solid win. And beating the Texans when, you know, the Texans were trying late in the game to score a touchdown, even when the game was all but over, and the Vikings still held them. Yeah, that's when the Vikings started showing up in the higher, you know, top 5 of the NFL
power rankings.
Power rankings, which are so annoying because they don't mean anything. That's when people were saying, oh, yeah, they might not win 7 games. They might win 9, 10, 11 wins. You know, that'd be pretty crazy. That's when the whole mentality started changing. So that was a pretty solid win, but I'm still going with the Falcons just because of the cousins of it all.
We can agree to disagree, but I think both of those games were awesome. Obviously, there are 14 wins that we could look back on, and they were all fun to watch because of how they ended.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do need to talk about the worst loss, though.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time talking about it because it just happened last week.
Yep.
And we talked it to death last week, but that week 18 loss to the Lions.
Yeah.
Just bad.
It was ugly. There were some bright spots where you're thinking, okay, the scheme's working. Sam just can't hit anybody. The defense was looking great until they weren't. It was awful. And then what they lost. It wasn't just a loss of a game. It was the loss of a division title, of the second time they've ever been could have ever been the number 1 seed in the NFL. The loss of a bye week, which you lost a lot by losing to the Lions. Plus, Lions fans, I know you're watching and listening because you all suck and you care more about the Vikings than Vikings fans do. You guys are the worst, and the Vikings losing to the Lions really brought out the worst in the worst of the Lions fans. And let's just say it right here again, at least in my own opinion, the Lions have the worst fan base in the history of the NFL as of this moment. They're even worse than the dilly Philly fans.
I don't know.
And that's saying something.
I feel like Philly still might have the edge on that one. That's just my opinion.
When you can get Vikings fans and Packers fans to like talking to each other because they hate Lions fans so much, that's how you know you're a bad fan base. There's probably, just like with every fan base, there's a small number of just awful fans, and then most of everyone else is perfectly fine. So there's probably a lot of great Lions fans out there. There are definitely some awful Vikings fans out there, but man, to never have a good team until recently, those Lions fans are pretty entitled, which made that loss to the Lions all the worse.
Yeah, it was a hard one to suffer. I don't know that we need to be, starting battles with other fan bases.
Lions fans suck. You are the worst fan base in NFL history.
But still check out the Skol app because we want more listeners.
Oh, I'm getting them to check it out by saying, you suck. You all suck.
All right.
I'm making Evan uncomfortable right now.
You're not making me uncomfortable. I just don't want to talk about the Lions anymore.
That's true.
We are not a Lions
That's
podcast.
it. Worst loss of the season. Congrats, Lions. You've earned that award. It's the last award you'll earn.
Let's end these superlatives on a high note here.
Yeah.
Favorite play or the best play of the season?
Well, I've already accidentally given my funniest play, which was a deep touchdown from Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson. But I think we can both agree on what our favorite play or best play was. And it's a different Sam Darnold deep touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Which one is it, Ev?
It was against the 49ers, week 2. We were actually at the Iowa Podcast Awards for that game and watched this on my computer screen in between things. But it was Sam Darnold to Justin Jefferson, 97 yards. I think it's the longest play of the season, perhaps, in the league. Definitely for the Vikings.
Definitely for the Vikings. It might be the longest
offensive play.
Maybe. It would have to have been, 98 yards to be longer, so that'd be pretty difficult. But
a few things about that play in particular. First of all, the Vikings were on their own 1 or 2 yard line or 3 yard line. I guess it would have had to have been. But Sam Darnold was
in the end zone,
2 or 3 yards deep in his own end zone. And he chucked that thing 50 plus yards in the air. That ball flew 50 yards. Justin Jefferson caught it at midfield. So that's impressive feat number 1. Number 2, Justin Jefferson made an amazing just pivot, and he had 2 defenders with him as he's sprinting down kind of the left side of the field, and he angles to his right and cuts him off to score the touchdown. That was impressive feat number 2. Impressive feat number 3 is the official.
I was going to say that. I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
That stuck with them the whole play. That guy looked like a track star out there. It was awesome. So that play in every aspect was amazing.
Yeah. That's got to be our favorite play. I think an honorable mention. There's a few good ones. We can talk about a few other good ones.
We can definitely list some honorable mentions.
The touchdown pass, I think it was against the Seahawks, where Sam Darnold had been getting beat up all dry, but kept doing okay things. And then it was a 40-something yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson, where Darnold had just taken a big lick, or I think it was on that play after he threw the ball, he took a big lick, maybe both. And he just steps up in the pocket and just throws a dart, a perfect ball.
Was that the one on the left side of the field, and Justin Jefferson kind of did a little spin move to get into the end zone?
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
That was such a great play.
That was great.
If we can, we should try and see if we can get clips of these plays.
Yeah, I bet we can dig them up.
Yeah.
They're out there somewhere.
Another one, it was in a loss, but for me, the fumble return touchdown by Ivan Pace Jr. against the Lions in the first Lions game.
Yes.
That was pretty exciting. I was at that game. It was the loudest moment the stadium had been really all game, definitely since the early game touchdown run from Aaron Jones.
I would say both of the Andrew Van Ginkel pick sixes early in the season, those were awesome and deserve to be on that honorable mention list for sure.
Absolutely. Especially since one of them was against Aaron Rodgers, which talk about a drop off. That guy has just disappeared. My goodness. That's okay with me.
Let's hope he retires, and let's hope he doesn't repeat the Brett Favre pattern and play for the Jets and then come play for the Vikings.
No. But the difference between that is at the time Brett Favre was still good.
Right.
And Aaron Rodgers has not looked good at all his entire Jets career. Any other honorable mentions? This is fun talking about fun plays.
I think of I think Aaron Jones, again, it came in a loss, but he ripped off that big run right away at the beginning of the first Lions game.
Yeah, that touchdown, yeah.
It was right as the first drive, and I think it was a 30 or 40 yard rushing touchdown. He just found a seam and then just took off.
Yeah. I sadly missed that play because
that's right.
I was in the stadium. I was just slightly politely arguing with another group of
that you were in the wrong
Vikings fans. They said I was in the wrong seats, and I knew I was not in the wrong seats. And then I looked it up and I was absolutely in the wrong seats, and I apologize profusely because I was borderline rude. I'm talking about me and Lions fans. I was kind of rude, but I was totally wrong. And if those other Vikings fans are listening, I'm sorry. I apologize to your face right then, but I'm sorry again. But yeah, so I kind of missed that play because in the middle of you're in my seat. No, I'm not. Touchdown. Yeah. Skol Vikings. No, but really I'm not in your seat. And then my wife was in the bathroom with my son, and that was crazy. One of my daughters cried because we had to move seats. That was nuts. But yeah, great play. I'll never forget that.
So not a great play for you, but I enjoyed watching it on TV. I wish I could have been there in the stadium. It would have been fun. Plenty of other great plays. I don't think we have time to recap all of them, but if you have a favorite play out there, or if you have any thoughts on any of the other categories that we've talked about, drop us a comment and let us know who you think should have won instead of the people that we nominated. But I had fun with this. This was a good way to just look back on the regular season, a really fun and exciting regular season to be a part of as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, it's been fun. We didn't do this last year. We kind of not officially did this last year, but definitely something we'll need to keep doing. I've heard of other shows kind of actually week by week making like little trophies and the Skol Hop player of the game, and they physically send those little trophies to the Vikings facility, and in some of the tell us with the tell us, those videos in the locker room, you can kind of see those little trophies in players' lockers sometimes. So maybe next year we should make up 18 little trophies and have a Skol Hop player of the game. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Well, the Vikings are going to play tomorrow night. Yep. By the time you guys listen to this episode, you will know what happened with that. We'll know what happened with that. We'll know the Vikings' fate. Are they done for the season, or are they going to live to play another week, either at Philadelphia or at Detroit, depending on what's happening, which we should check right now. The Commanders are currently losing by 4 with 11 minutes left in the fourth.
So, yeah, I think if the Commanders win, then the Vikings will go to Philly. And if the Buccaneers win, the Vikings will go to Detroit. Which, my goodness. And did I mention this before? Lions fans suck. They're the worst fans in the history of the NFL.
You did mention that.
I'm just kidding. Like I said, I'm sure 99% of really every fan of every team is solid and would have a great conversation. But man, the stories that have come out about that. I hope the Vikings, I don't know what I want. What do you prefer?
I think I prefer going to Philly a little bit more than I prefer going back to Detroit. I'd like to see somebody else beat Detroit. I felt like
the Vikings can't do it, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's that, and I just felt like, especially that Week 18 game, they just got their butts handed to them, and it was so hard to watch. And Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn had it all figured out, and there were some famous shots of Aaron Glenn just sitting there on the bench,
just chilling out,
legs crossed, and he's not on the sidelines, he's just chilling there on the bench, and he's like, yeah, we're up by 25 points right now or whatever, we're good. I don't need to do anything. And I still can't figure out what Dan Campbell actually does. What's his job? Just to say it's fourth down? All right, let's go for it.
I think he just makes gutsy decisions, and it sometimes works out.
And chews tobacco. Lots of it.
Have you seen his teeth?
Yeah. They're pretty bad. Anyways.
Washington just scored.
Oh, good. So yeah, I would prefer to go to Philadelphia. It'd be a cold weather game, which would be maybe a little tough. But I was telling you this before we started recording. If you can stop Saquon Barkley, I think you can stop the Eagles.
Yeah.
And the Vikings have a top rushing defense in the league. Mm-hmm. And I would put my faith in this Vikings defense any day of the week. Even more so than the offense, and I think the offense is pretty darn good too.
Yeah.
So,
and Sam Darnold had a pretty rough Week 18 against the Lions. I think he has proven who he is throughout the course of the entire season, and who he is a pretty solid quarterback with Kevin O'Connell. I think Week 18 was it was a tough game for him, and everybody has tough games sometimes. I think he is fully capable of bouncing back. And I think even if he doesn't get back to, his elite form, his highest form he had at the peak of the season, which was, he peaked towards the end.
He definitely
outside
did.
of that week 18 game, he was peaking. Even if he's only, mostly back to his normal self, the Vikings should win pretty well. So I hate to overlook this Rams game. We both have already predicted a victory, and another week of conversation hasn't changed my opinion on whether or not the Vikings will beat the Rams. Not that it's going to be a blowout, but I think they'll get past it, and they'll either be playing Philly or Detroit, which by the time this podcast is out, we'll know, at least where they'd be going if they win tomorrow night.
You didn't share your preference. What would you prefer as a Vikings fan? Would you prefer going to Detroit or Philly?
I don't know.
The divisional round. There's
the adage where they say it's hard to beat a team twice, and then it's definitely really hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. Mm-hmm. Obviously the Lions have proven that they know how to beat the Vikings this year. The first game was real close. The second game,
not close at all.
Not close at all. And I don't know. I don't know if I can deal with those awful Lions fans again if they beat the Vikings again. So
Philly fans aren't much better.
No, but we've had a few years since awful Philly fans in the playoffs. So either way, neither of those games would be easy. I tend to agree with you if the Vikings can stop Saquon Barkley, which is a huge if. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has really been able to stop him all year. If they can stop him, I think Jalen Hurts, who is still not a pushover, I think the Vikings can do it. I guess I'll say I prefer Philly, like you.
There you go. Fair enough.
And hopefully we get to have that conversation again.
Let's hope so. That would be good news for us. Mm-hmm. But anyways, beer. What do you think of this wonderful, my first ever smoothie sour called Blender from Reunion? What do you think? It was really good. I'm opening my last one here. You said it was thick earlier. I think, well, that's accurate. It's got some body to it. Is that the right term? Yeah. It's also not like what are those, the naked smoothie drinks that are like a legit smoothie? It's not like that. But it does have some thickness to it. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's got a perfect blend of an initial tartness, and then it mellows out really quick in a nice way. Sweet but not too sweet. It's fun. The can's fun. I like it. Yeah, it's a good beer. I'm pleasantly surprised. I was kind of on the fence. I was like, we're either going to like it or we're going to hate it. And I definitely don't hate it. So, yeah. Good stuff. I would definitely, after having this, I would absolutely reach for a smoothie sour again. Easy drinking, too. It goes down nice and easy. So, thanks again, Reunion Brewery out of Iowa City, for Blender smoothie sour. It's pretty good. Yep. And we purchased these beers ourselves. Actually, you bought them yourself. But if you're a brewery out there and you want to send us some stuff to try out, we will gladly try some stuff out. We'll always give an honest opinion, but I mean, how many bad beers have we ever really had? We really haven't had a bad beer, and we're now 75 episodes in. So, I mean, there's definitely beers we like better than others, but I mean, we'll give an honest opinion, and we're pretty easy to please. We're just beer lovers. We like beer. Yeah. And it's been fun to try a lot of different types of beer. So if you're a brewery or know of a brewery and want to send us any beers to try out, we will accept anything. Evan, brewery or not, if somebody wanted to reach out to us, how would they do that? Just send us a carrier pigeon. No. Evan, the internet exists. That's how these people are consuming our content. The Skol Hop, just Google that. That's probably the easiest way to find us. But if you've got a preferred social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. TikTok, if it's still around. Apparently it's going away here soon. If it's still available. So we're on all of those platforms. You can email us, theskolhop@gmail.com. Carrier pigeons work, though. You could send one. Yeah, I mean, I'd be really weirded out if a pigeon found its way to me, but I mean,
if somebody's reaching out, we gotta read it, right? You know,
we do have a website as well, theskolhop.com. All of our episodes are there, and you can find sweet shirts like this through our TeePublic store. There's a link to that on our website as well. So, check us out and definitely comment below.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, if you're watching a clipped out version on Facebook or whatever, let us know who's on your superlative list this year for Vikings, or maybe give us some ideas for categories that we could maybe use in the future as well, because we definitely consider those too.
Absolutely. We should say it again. This coming Saturday, January 18th, we will be live at the On Tap live podcast event presented by the Mainstream Podcast at River Ridge Brewing in Bellevue, Iowa. Us, and have we said all the other podcasts that are going to be on there?
I don't think so. You should do it though.
The Mainstream Podcast, Beautiful View Podcast, which is another one. I believe they're out of Bellevue, Iowa. That's kind of their name. Beautiful View, Bellevue. I don't know. K Love You Bye, which there's at least one of the main guys on that podcast who's a Vikings fan. Remelations and Conspiring to Argue. So we got the chance to meet, I think, all of these podcasts at the Iowa Podcast Awards over the summer, and it was a great event, and that's kind of what turned into this On Tap event with the Mainstream. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a blast.
Should be a good time. And River Ridge, we've tried some of their beer now. Super good beer. I'm excited to have that vanilla porter.
Yeah. Is it the Friends vanilla porter?
Yeah. It's even better on tap. Like, it was good in the can, but it's
better on tap.
It's better on tap. There you go. Yeah. So make sure you, if you're able to get to Bellevue, Iowa, a tiny little river town on the eastern side of the state, come check us out live there next weekend, January 18th. Otherwise, tune in on all of our platforms, and we'll make sure we post whatever we record there as well.
Also, I had the chance to be on the Mainstream Podcast just over a week ago now. Yeah. And I think it's one of their most recent episodes. I think they've had one more recent episode as of right now since then. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a good episode. Go check those guys out, that episode out specifically, the Mainstream Podcast. So yeah, I think we did it. I think we hit everything else.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Yeah, I think we got to Skol it up. I think we got to get out of here, and we got to start planning for that live podcast event.
Yes.
I think we're going to maybe try to do some fun stuff while we're there.
Should be a good time. All right. Skol.
Skol. Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.